Welcome to our latest podcast of Insights into Success. Today, our special guest is Sir Peter Leach, aka the Mad Butcher. Thank you, Peter, for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
You might not say that later.
Well, we'll start off on a positive note, shall we? So if you don't mind, what I would like to do for a start is just run through your early years and just ask you some questions to do with it. So firstly, you were born in Wellington, the youngest of 7 children in 1944 to parents John and Myrtle. What are your memories like of those early years?
Oh, good, yes. Happy family. Didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
Lived on a Horner Street in Newtown, and but just had good, loving parents, and just a normal life, really. We were blessed, to be fair.
And in those days, I guess a lot of your childhood was out playing, just out in the environment. Making
Cowboys and Indies, mainly. Cowboys and Indians, that was the big thing. Then going down to the movie theatre. We had 2 movie theatres in Newtown.
Yeah.
The Ascot and the Rivoli, I think it was. And
right.
Yeah, go to the movies and cowboy movies.
And so you had undiagnosed dyslexia, which impacted on your schooling, and as a result, you left at age 15. Now, not knowing that you had dyslexia, how was school for you?
Well, school was school, but I just felt I was a dumb bastard.
Right.
No, look, I didn't realise I had dyslexia and it was affecting me learning.
Yeah.
But I was always in the lowest classes, and but I got by. It was just normal life for me.
So you just figured you weren't that smart, and that was what was happening.
Well, I used to say I was the dumbest bastard in the class. There was another guy in the class called Murray Gifford, and we used to joke at who was the dumbest, But look, it was just life, mate, and you just got to run with the basket you've got, and that was it. So
and you were happy, and that's all.
I got no complaints, mate.
Yeah,
no complaints.
So at 16, you took up a butcher's apprenticeship.
No, there was no apprenticeships in those days.
Oh, okay, all right.
You got to get that right.
Okay.
What happened was, when you're not bright, and you don't have certificates and all that stuff, you take whatever job you can get.
Right.
My first job was delivering telegrams.
Right.
And then there was a job advertised in Seatoon for a butcher's boy, which I applied for. Most of the jobs I got because no one else applied. And that was a true story. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you didn't have any deep burning desire to be a butcher at the time. It was just that's what
in
came
actual
up.
fact, the first day, they asked me to get in the fridge to get some liver.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pick liver up, it was all mucky and gooey.
Yeah.
And secondly, I was scared someone might close the door on the fridge.
Trapped.
And but no, I loved it, and to this day, as much as I've sold the business, I still love the meat industry.
Right.
Still love it.
So you didn't plan to get into it, but by accident you did effectively, and it turned out it was your passion.
Yeah.
Or became your passion.
Yeah, and I mean, I never set out to own a business. I worked in the shop in Ellerslie, and through circumstances there, I used to go. We just had our daughter Angela, and I think we had a 1950 Morris Minor, and it was falling apart. And we would go out on the weekend and look at shops. And we looked at a shop in Rosella Road, Mangere. It was owned by a man called Mr. Harold Hill. Beautiful man. He was the big boss of Hancock's Wines and Spirits in those days. And we looked at it, and he said to me, "What do you think?" He happened to be there the day I looked at it.
Yeah.
And I said, I got no money, mate. Look at the car, and we just had a baby, blah, blah, blah. And he said, can I have your name and number? And I thought, the only people who ever ask that's the coppers. So I was not very keen. And I said, give it to him. So I give it to him. Then about a month later, he rang me and said, any chance you can come and see me? I said, what for? He said, I'd just like to talk to you.
Yeah.
So I went into their office, and I always remember, never judge a book by the cover. I go to the reception, very attractive young girl, to be fair, I'll never forget that. And I said, I'm here to see Mr. Hill.
Yeah.
She said, you sure you got the right building? I said, well, he told me Hancock's Wines and Spirits and opposite the railway station, and I believe it is. And she looked at me. Anyhow, she buzzed through to him, and there was a big corridor, and all the offices were on the left-hand side, and when you come out, you're in one alley, and he was right down the bottom, and he come out, "Oh, Peter, come on down, son," But I'll never forget him, a lovely man, And he asked me if I was keen to take it over, and I said, look, I got no money. He said, well, I could finance you. I said, well, what's finance? I had no idea, because I'm a working class boy.
Yeah.
And I said to him, why me? He said, well, first of all, you were honest when you looked at the shop. And secondly, I sent my wife down, and she said, "You're a very nice young man." She went down 2 or 3 times, and you were very good. And you carried the meat out to a car, and your service was great and that. And I said to him, "Your wife must be bloody good looking and a lot younger than you."
What did he say to that?
He never said a thing. He was an incredible man. And to cut a long story short, he ended up financing me into the shop in Rosella Road, and he gave me a blank cheque to get what I needed to get to fit the shop out, because it had been a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And he said, "I do want you to use this refrigeration company." So I go there, see the guy, and the guy I see had his head right up his backside and really didn't want to be talking to me. And I said, "Well, this is what we need. Can you give us an estimate?" "Oh, it's going to cost plenty." "When could you start it?" "Oh, not till 3 months, 4 months, So I rang Miss Hill that night, and I said, "Look, Miss Hill, I haven't got time to waste." I said,
Yeah.
"I've got a bit of pride." I said, "And I don't like being treated like a dog, mate." And that's how I was treated, I said. So I said, "I'm not keen." He said, "Peter, would you do me a favour? Would you?" And this is 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
He said, "Would you go back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock? I said, "It'll be awkward, but I can if you want me to, so I'd like to. Yeah. And if you're not happy, you get your mate to do the work."
Right.
Go back the next day. I hate being called Mr. Leach. Always have.
Yeah.
The guy gets, "Oh, Mr. Leach." "No, he called me Peter, that's right." And I said, "No, my name's Mr. Leach." And I'm a boxing fan. And when you've got a guy on the ropes, you always punch him. And I said, "How much is it going to cost? I need a proper price, not a fly in the kite." He said, "I guarantee you won't get a cheaper price anywhere in the world." I said, "When will you start?" "We'll start today."
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So I never knew why the change until Mr. Hill died, and I went to the funeral, and the son said, "Did Dad ever tell you about the refrigeration?" He rang the big boss of the refrigeration company and said, "I sent my business partner,
Wow.
he was just lending me money, but I was his business partner." And he said, he got terrible treatment. He said, "If you don't rectify it, by the end of the week, our 145 pubs will have a new refrigeration company."
Right.
And
Wow.
so the big boss got hold of the salesman. And the other thing he done, he asked me if I wanted a drink. And I'm a Coca-Cola addict. I drink Coca-Cola,
Oh, okay.
And he said, "Would you like a drink?" And he got me a Coke. And it was warm. And I spat it. And I said, "You never drink Coke warm." And he sent a guy down and got me some cold Coke. Yeah. And that was the start of the journey.
Right. So you never planned to own your own butcher shop. You'd come from Wellington to Auckland,
Yeah.
I think it was in 64.
Wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, apparently you actually did a job as a gravedigger for a little while.
What do you learn
that
out of
happen?
being a gravedigger?
About mortality,
Well-
appreciating your life.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of fancy, but in simplicity, you learn the value of life.
Yeah.
The first grave we done was, I think, a 7-year-old boy or something like that.
Oh.
And when you stand back and you see the grief and
Yeah.
it makes you realise, like I was living the life of Riley at that stage, it makes you realise the value of life, yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
you've held on to that.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
I've never forgot it. I can close my eyes and see that now. Puera Cemetery it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did you do that job for?
I wouldn't have a clue. Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue.
Right.
Yeah.
And but you then moved back into being the butcher, and then of course,
Well, I
as you
got
said,
a job, another good story. I got a job in Crankippy Road, and it called Newton Meats, and I think 4 doors down from the Pink Pussy Club, which I thought was a pet shop, but it was a striptease place. Yeah. And so the girls used to come in the shop, and so I said to the boss, "I'm going to give them a discount, but I'll put 20% on." Well, what the boss didn't know, I didn't have a clue how to put 20% on, and I didn't know how to take 10% off, but I used to give them a little deal and chat them up. And so whenever my mates come up from Wellington, we'd go there and we'd get in the front row, and the girls would give me all the treats, and my mates thought I was a hero. Yeah.
So somewhere along that line, though, you actually met your future wife as well.
Janice, yes.
Janice, yeah.
Still with her, 55 years.
And to what extent has she been a driving force with you in your career?
Massive, to be fair. I couldn't have done anything without her.
Yeah.
She's, I remember we had Angela, and I got really busy at the shop this day, and I said, "Oh, mate, you got to get out of here." And she couldn't drive. I said, "Get a bloody taxi." And then she became my meat packer. Yeah. But no, she's been fantastic, Behind every man, there's a very good woman.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. And what I want to know is, like, there's a lot of butchers out there that go and they start up their own store and that's it. They never go beyond that. What made you push to go beyond that and open up more stores?
Well, I was doing okay, but I knew the supermarkets were getting more dominant, you know, and that Mr. Archie was a very smart man and doing it very well.
Yeah.
So I knew we had to expand, and Janice didn't want to expand. And life takes funny turns. I flew to Wellington to wage negotiations. I wanted to see how it went on. And I always remember Ken Douglas at the meeting, banging the table, and say, "You bastards better put your tin helmets on because the war's starting now." And he intimidated the negotiators. He walked all over them. So I learned a good lesson, you know, be strong.
Yeah.
And I sat next to a guy called Rod Slater, and he lived in South Auckland, and I'm a South Auckland boy, you know. And we weren't mates really, but he said to me on the way back, he said, "You know, I know a good place for a Mad Butcher store." So I went, cut a long story short, I went into partnership, not in the Mad Butcher. We set another company up called Rod Pet Enterprises, and we opened 3 stores together.
Right.
Or 4, yeah. And then we never had an argument in the years of partnership.
Yeah.
And but he decided to go his own way.
Yeah.
And I carried on. But we had to combine, you know, for the supermarkets. And it made sense. I could put an ad on the radio or in the paper, one ad that would serve the 5 shops.
Right.
As well as if I only had 1 shop, I'd have to pay the same. So economically in that it was a good, but it was smart, you know.
So would you kind of describe yourself as a person that kind of is really very aware of what's going on and learns as they go? So, you know, as a situation unfolds, you kind of realise, like with that, hey, I'm paying for this ad. I might as well have several shops and get the benefit over all of them.
Murray Decker summed me up only a few weeks ago. We were talking, and another guy, and he said, "This guy's the smartest street smart guy I know." That's right. I'm street smart. Yeah. You know, I'm not educated. I'm not bright, but you know, I just know.
Education.
Yeah, someone said to me one day, "You must have had a good marketing company behind you." I said, "Marketing company? Well, it was me, mate. Me." You know.
So do you think it's kind of like, you know, some people in life go around almost with blinkers on and can only see what's in front of them, whereas you've gone around very much with no blinkers on and very much aware of your environment and just picked up opportunities?
Yeah, look, I don't know, mate. It's just me. I'll give you an example. Round the Bays was a big thing a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'm going to enter a team because there's a lot of people that don't work for a company or by themselves and want to be part of a team but aren't part of a team. So I come up with this idea, we'd get T-shirts printed and we'd have a barbecue afterwards and that. And I mean, one year we had about 300 in the run, you know, and everyone with Mad Butcher T-shirts. So we dominated within the way that round the Bays. And everyone wanted to come to our after party after the run, you know. But just doing things and thinking outside the square, you know. Getting involved in rugby league, the Mighty Mangarees Hawks, you know. Another good story, the chairman, the late chairman of the club, Colin Christian, come into the shop in Rosella Road and said, "Would you consider sponsoring the club?" And I said, "Well, what sponsorship?" I had no idea. He said, "Well, you give us a meat pack, we'll give you a plug." And then one day he said, "Why don't you come down to the club?" And I went down there. They were my sort of people, lion red, you know, working class Polynesian Maoris.
Yeah.
And mate, I loved it. And next thing I'm, you know, gone to be the manager of the Kiwis and turning rugby league or New Zealand Kiwis around.
Yeah.
And very involved in the Warriors, or the Vodafone Warriors.
Warriors.
Yeah. I slipped up then. Yeah. Even I make mistakes.
Oh, we're all human. Even you are. So what I want to do, Peter, though, is like in the media a lot, they kind of like to shortcut everything and just talk about all the good experiences and kind of seem like success just happens overnight. And I think you and I know that it's just not like that.
Well, it certainly wasn't my experience.
No. So can you share a bit?
We opened the shop in Rosella Road, and the deal was, Mr. Hill said, in a year or, I can't remember exactly, but he said, if it's not working, you give me the keys back and you walk away. Well, I was working 3 jobs. I was cleaning South Auckland Motors,
Yeah.
and I was doing a bit of contract boning for a guy.
Yeah.
And I was barely making money. I was slowly, after about 2 years, that's right. I went to Mr. Hill and said, look, it's not working, and he said, well, give me the keys, Peter. It's an absolute beautiful guy, absolutely. And he said, give me the keys. You've done your best. You've tried really hard. I said, look, I don't want to leave you in the lurch. So another lesson I learned, if you have a noose around your neck, it's very hard to make good decisions.
Yeah.
So he said to me, look, I'm going to scrub the interest and you just pay me when you can afford it.
Yeah.
If you can't afford to pay me for 2 months, you don't pay me.
What an amazing guy.
I know he was beautiful, mate.
Yeah.
He was a great man. But don't forget, he wanted to sell the block of shops. So there was method in his madness, but he was also a very good man, honourable man.
Yeah.
Lived in 1 Half Street, Remuera.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
Wow.
And, boy from Wellington, Newtown, go to his house and they had all these knives and forks. And I said to him one night, what do you need all these knives and forks for? You've only got one pair of hands. And he went through it. But because in the end, I didn't have to go I'd go to his home because it was easy and go at night. Yeah. But he just said, no, you just, and by doing that, it enabled me to think better and to take a bit more chance in the business.
Wow, interesting.
And then things started to go. And then he sold the block, which he was always straight up going to sell it. And thank goodness I didn't have a lease. The new landlord wanted to put the rent up. So I sent my books to his accountant. His accountant told him, no, he can't afford it. But he was greedy and insisted. And
short-sighted.
Then I got the shop on Massey Road, where I only sold the building a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah. So, that's an example of someone being short-sighted, not seeing the bigger picture.
Well, he regretted it because he never let the butcher shop and a couple of other shops disappeared because I was the key talent, I was bringing people there, you know. Yeah.
Otherwise, he learned a lesson there. Now, so in particular, I know that you had some challenges around 1995. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
The key factor in business, don't get your head up your backside, all right? Why? Because you can't hear or see where you're going, all right?
Yeah.
And I did that, to be fair. I was doing okay, and I had a couple of guys working for me, and you guys can run the business, and I'll go and spend more time at the Warriors.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to read a balance sheet, funny enough. But the main thing in a balance sheet is the bottom line, and I can read that.
Yeah.
So I got this balance sheet, and it wasn't good. And I remember going out to the factory late at night, and we used to make vegetarian sausages. And I thought, I'm going to go and cook a couple of those and eat them, and that will finish me for life. I was thinking, for a split second, I thought about, chopping myself.
Right.
But then I thought, nah, that's the bloody soft way, no. So next day I was at work at 3 o'clock, I think. Staff come in at 5, and I'd already set stuff up, and I said, we're going rolling, boys,
Yeah.
And we got stuck in.
Yeah. And you turned it around.
Yeah, well, it wasn't hard, but they just... See, a lot of people think they're smart and they're not smart.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think I'm smart, but I've done okay.
Yeah.
And they just didn't have the good... It's not easy running a business.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And a lot of good people have gone broke because they just don't have the X factor.
Yeah.
Now, even today, I still look in the mirror and say, how did I ever survive? I genuinely mean that. I often think, how did I ever survive? And I think I survived because I was honest.
Yeah.
I was very good dealing with ladies, and they were the big part of the business, know. Like simple things. Like, some salesman will say to a woman that's overweight and not attractive, oh, you look beautiful today. She knows she's not. You insult her. So you never say those sort of things.
So you're not credible.
No, And, and I sold good meat at competitive prices.
Yeah. So I just want to touch on this a little bit more, if you don't mind, because I think it is something, especially with COVID-19, is very relevant, is that business owners can face significant stress, which can lead to them either contemplating or, unfortunately in some cases, actually committing suicide. In light of your experience, you didn't think about it for too long, but it did cross your mind. And I guess what I like to, if I could, is get some wisdom from you on how you dealt with those thoughts and what advice you have for business people who might have similar thoughts.
Well, firstly, the main thing is to try not to get there, all right?
Yeah.
And by that, the reason I was able to, survive, we weren't living in big flash houses and we weren't driving flash cars. We had money in the bank.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the bank didn't even realise it was in the poo. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I think that's point one, that
Yeah.
don't go into business and then start buying cars and buying flats and da-da-da. Because the amount of people I know that have gone belly up because they end up buying too much.
Yeah.
And if anything goes wrong, they can't meet the payments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask for help.
Yeah.
Is the other thing,
Yeah.
And I've had, over the years, I've had a couple of people ring me and want to talk to me, and we've sat down and talked, and I've helped them where I can. And
Yeah.
I've told them where to go for other advice, but it's a tricky one because it affects everyone differently, and I've known some very sad cases in my day, very sad. But there's always help out there.
Yeah.
And the main thing is, don't overstretch yourself. Like so many people, they get into business and next thing they want to buy the flashiest car and, I drive a Toyota Hilux. I'm not putting that down, but,
No. Yeah.
I do have an Audi in the garage as well. Yeah, but,
I think you meant it now.
But, when I had the business, I would never have a flash car. Well, in the latter years I might have, but in the early years, no. Mainly because I couldn't afford it.
Yeah. And if someone does make that mistake and does gear themselves up
Yeah.
and have a lot of debt and they are in that difficult circumstance and they feel like they're going to fail, is it that big a deal if they do fail? Is it something that's worth, do you think that we put too much emphasis on not failing in New Zealand? Like in America, bankruptcies are almost like a badge of honour.
Yeah.
They have a slightly different view on it.
Look, it's all individuals, and you just got to take case by case, and there's no shame in going broke. No
At least
shame
they've had a
at
go.
all. Yeah, no shame at all. Someone very close to me went broke in business, and he went broke because he was too kind.
Yeah.
He was too kind. If someone was overdue with their account, he would, don't pay me then, and he couldn't afford it, but he
Yeah.
was too kind. And that's someone very close to me, and he should never have gone into business.
So if you had the choice, either of just working a normal job for your life, just earning a basic salary, or going out and trying to run a business and you fail, which would you have preferred to have done?
Oh, look, I can't answer that because I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, look, hand on my heart if I had one somewhere. I genuinely would never have gone into business, but I wasn't happy with the job I had. And
right.
then Mr. Hill offered to lend me some money, to finance me. I would never have gone into business. And like I say, I still wake up. How did I survive?
How did you do it?
But, we've all had setbacks in life. I've had my setbacks.
Yeah, you've had a lot.
I got cancer. I had a major operation 2 years ago where I was 7.5 hours in the operating theatre, then 7 days they put me in a coma, then another few days in ICU, But you just got to get up and
Get on with
roll on.
it. Yeah.
My secret to life now is kayaking.
Yeah.
It's very good mentally for my brain and good for the upper body.
Physically, yeah.
Yeah. Kayak with 3 other guys and we have a bit of a chin-chag, take the piss out of each other and yeah.
I guess like from my point of view, what I was trying to get at before is my view is if someone has a burning desire to go into business and they do it and they fail, I still think they're a hero because they had it and they had a go.
Mate, they jumped
They
off
had
the
a go.
bridge. They jumped off the bridge. I am terrified of heights.
Yeah.
We're down in Queenstown. My cousin Ian was working for AJ Hackett, and
Yeah.
I admired him because he was such a legend.
Yeah.
And I said to him, there's AJ Hackett around, Ian, I'd love to meet him. He said, he'd like to meet you. So he comes out and meet him. Then he says to me, are you going to jump? Now remember, I'm scared of heights. I said, yes. What have I said? What have I said? But I done it, mate.
You did it.
Now, he did say I was the only person ever to try to get back on the ledge. He did say that. But, because you failed doesn't mean,
No. At least you had a go rather than always talking about it and never doing it.
Yeah. And that's the challenge in life.
Yeah.
I remember the first day I opened that shop in Rosella Road.
Right.
In those days, you really disliked anyone that come in and wanted $1 worth of cat's meat because they really wanted $5 worth but only pay $1. And I remember he was the very first customer. He's a guy, and I get some meat out to cut it up, and I'm shaking like this. I couldn't hold my hand still, and I cut my bloody finger. Yeah, first customer. Yeah, wasn't a good start, to be fair.
No.
Yeah, but you carry on.
Wow, you carry on. Okay, so at the time of selling your Mad Butcher chain, you had around about 37. I've sort of, there's a little, when I read somewhere that says 36, 37, but either way, you had sort of 36 or 37 stores between Whangarei and Dunedin. I mean, for someone that left school early, that's one heck of an achievement.
Yeah, they were franchised though.
It doesn't matter. That's to have achieved that, to create a chain.
Here's another point for you. Never be scared to ask.
Yeah.
So when I thought about franchising, I thought, who's the best franchise company in New Zealand? McDonald's.
Yeah.
So I rang McDonald's and spoke to the reception. Can I speak to the big boss? He's probably, anyhow, she recognised my voice. And she put me through. His name was Al Dunn. And I said, what I was doing, and he knew who I was. And so I went to see him, and he gave me some solid information on franchising.
Yeah.
The key to franchising, you've got to have an airtight
agreement.
Airtight, yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, it was just a journey, mate, you know. And some of those franchises done very well as well. There was a few that didn't do well, but there were some that done very well,
Yeah, so, I mean, it's an incredible achievement. And I'm sure when you were 15 and left school, you weren't contemplating this was going to be your journey.
Mate, I was just trying to get a job, mate, and, when you don't have, the only thing that went in my favour on my report, Peter works hard. And when they done This Is Your Life on me...
Yes, I've watched that.
Well... They had my old teacher, my last teacher at school, Mrs. Main, who was an attractive young lady, but she taught outside the square, and that was the highlight of This Is Life for me.
Yeah.
And I actually flew down to Wellington, took her husband out to dinner.
Wow.
But she taught outside the square, you see.
Yeah.
See, I'm still anti the education system because the bright kids get all the best teachers, and the lower classes get the worst. And believe me, I had some terrible teachers. Yeah. Terrible.
So she was your shining light.
She was.
Now, I want to quote you. Now, in reference to your book, you said, "It will tell people I'm just an ordinary person who has had a few lucky breaks along the way. Surrounded myself with some good people." Now, any luck that you have had must have something to do with the fact that you got out there and had a go rather than sitting back waiting for things to happen, don't you think?
Well, yes, but that I had a good wife.
Yeah.
Good back, Like I would come home, when I was working those long hours, the 3 jobs, I'd come home, my slippers would be at the doorstep for me, my meal would be put on the table, and if I didn't go to sleep, I'd eat it, But I've had some wonderful people work for me, some wonderful people, and they all made it happen, It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
It's all the pieces coming together.
Yes, you've got to put it together. And when I first started franchising, I used to give them a jigsaw puzzle of me, funny enough, and say, I'll give you the pieces, but you have to put it together.
Nice.
Yeah.
So touching on your wife for a minute, kind of, was she your sounding board? Like if you came home and you're stressed, was she the person you'd talk to just to let off steam? How did she kind of fit in there?
No, not really.
Or did you just kind of keep it quite separate and she was just there as your rock?
Yeah. Her role was looking after the household.
Yeah.
My role was supplying, not supplying, but paying the rent and making sure we could do all that because she never worked when the children were young.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk sometimes, but Janice was not keen on expansion and that, so
Right. So you kept that to yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
So aside from having key quality staff around you, what about personal qualities like determination, mental toughness, and ability to think outside the square, which we've touched on? What qualities do you possess that you think helped you to succeed?
Oh, I just think, like I was known as a hard businessman doing deals, but I always knew the other guy had to make some money as well. So there's got to be, you can't screw a guy too much so he's going to go broke.
Yeah.
It's got to be good for both parties.
Yeah.
And I just think I'm an ordinary bloke. I don't think I've got any outstanding skills with that. I just think that, I've used common sense and sort of some stuff my mum and dad brought me up. My dad was a hard worker. My mother never worked, and we had 7 children. And, I just think, keep it simple.
But you clearly, though, did or were willing to think outside the square, though, weren't you?
Well, yeah, but you see, that was just me being
me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's your quality.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I went self-service, a lot of butchers, well, he's an idiot, doesn't know what he's doing. But see, I wasn't scared to copy the leader. And the supermarkets, like, when Archie's set up Food Town, he done a good job, mate. The cabinets were nice, and I thought, maybe that's the way, so I done that. And, quite a few butchers said to me, "You're a mug, mate, you're a mug," And I'll tell you a lovely story. I won't mention any names, but there was a conference in Auckland, and a couple of guys said, "We'd like to look at your butcher, look at your shop, Butch." So we had a look at it. And on the way back, one of them said to me, "Oh, I got to say, Butch, a bit disappointed in your shop. You got stuff in apple boxes." I used to put stuff in plastic bags, but in apple boxes.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. How much you do a week?" And he told me. I said, "Well, mate, I'm only doing 4 times as much as that." I said, "But, I'm happy with the shop, but, never judge a book by its cover. Another saying,
Yeah.
And he was just a smart ass, mate.
Yeah.
Trying to be smart, but,
Trying to knock you down a couple of rungs.
Oh, yeah, but I got up and off the canvas and give him a few. Yeah.
So, like we touched on it before, you've had a few challenges in your life. I want to ask you, though, specifically with your dyslexia, like, do you think that may have actually even helped you in your journey?
Question. No question.
Yeah?
No question. No question, because I could never get my head up my ass because I wasn't that bright. And I do believe that some people that are very bright just think it's going to,
All come to them.
Yeah.
Sit back and wait for it to happen.
I think part of that, having dyslexia, helped me a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not like when you get told you've got cancer. When I got told I've got cancer, I thought I was going to die. And when I finally got diagnosed and they said I couldn't give a rat's ass, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put a label on something.
Yeah. Richard Branson's dyslexic.
Oh, is he?
I had dinner with him one night. 600 other people, to be fair. But no, I did sit with him, Westpac Bank. It sponsored the night, and I was able to sit with him. Very interesting man. And whereas I go to Waiheke Island, he owns his own island, Whereas I've got 7 kayaks, he's got a big launch, big boat. Yeah. But it's so, and I say to kids, if you've got it, it's not a holder back, you can do anything. I remember I was doing a speech in Pukekohe one night, and it was a paid gig. Used to give all the fees to charity. I never took anything.
Yeah.
And the lady said, "My boy's got dyslexia. Do you mind if I bring him out to hear you?" I said, "Well, I can't do that because it's a paid gig." But I said, "I'm happy to come out early and you meet." And I just brought myself a brand new S8 Audi, I think it was, because my wife had breast cancer, and she sat in one and said to the bloke, "That's so comfortable." So I said, "Get me one." I had no idea how much they were. Still reeling, because I was a Ford man.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I said, I talked to the boy, then I took him for a ride in the car. I said to him, "Mum, I'll take a ride. You don't come in." I took him on the motorway and put it down. I did exceed the speed limit and impressed him. And then I went and told him I'd paid cash for the car and told him how much I paid.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point for that boy.
Yeah.
He was going through some tough times, and his mother rang me several times and said, "Boy, that talk was the best thing I ever done for my boy. Yeah, so,
Showed him the way.
Yeah,
Wow.
because it does, if you get hammered a lot, you do believe you're a dickhead,
Yeah. Now, I guess we've touched on this again before, but you've had a number of health issues. I mean, you had a stent in your heart in 2007. You were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. You had bladder cancer in 2010, and then you've had your issue with your heart most recently. I mean, you've had more than your fair share of challenges, haven't you?
Do you know what? You know more about me than I know. I don't know all those dates. No. Yeah, look, I have, but I'm alive, and I'm grateful for that. Every day you wake up is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And, I think, like if you take getting cancer, I think it made me a better person.
Yeah.
These are challenges, and, it's the luck of the draw,
Yeah.
I've met and I've talked to a lot of people that are sick, and they haven't had the luck I've had. They haven't survived.
Yeah.
No, I've been blessed, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've got no complaints.
And do you think these challenges have made you stronger mentally, going through them?
Yeah. I think I was always strong, but I think it's made me more aware of life.
Right.
Like in my last big operation, they found out that I'm a bad bleeder, and that could have caused some major problems,
Right.
But no, life goes on, mate. You can't dwell on the past. You've got to look to the future. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. Absolutely. You've got to be positive about it.
Yeah, there's no point in dwelling in the past, is there? Learning your lessons and move on.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think one of the things for success is mental toughness. And I think we've touched on this now, and you've indicated it. I think it's that mental ability to cope with a difficult situation and to get on with it. Not to dwell on it, accept it, and move on, and hopefully turn it into a positive. And that seems to be a quality that you have.
You've got to turn every negative into a positive.
Nothing positive comes from a negative.
No. And I, like I said, when I got cancer, I thought, that's going to make me a better person.
Yep.
And, I had another challenge in life that I won't talk about.
Yeah.
But someone came out and supported me, and that was a real positive. That's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are, we live in New Zealand, we live in paradise. It's a beautiful country. But we don't want too many people coming to live on Waiheke, all right?
That's right. Keep the numbers down. So along with your business success, you're also renowned for your support of sport, in particular rugby league, and a number of charities. And your charities have included the likes of Allergy New Zealand, Diabetes Auckland, the Prostate Cancer Foundation, and more. Now, firstly though, why are you so passionate about rugby league? How did that all come about?
Well, because Colin Christian, the chairman, came into my shop, and he was the chairman of the local club, and asked me for some sponsorship, and I didn't know what sponsorship was. Got involved and getting involved with the club, and mate, they're just good people, working class people, and mate, just the love followed on, and
you felt the affinity with them.
One of my highlights was in 2005 when I was manager of the Kiwis. We beat Australia 24-0, and we beat. We set about we broke 4 or 5 other records. So I've had a great journey in the Warriors, of course, the Vodafone Warriors, of course.
Yeah.
No, just here. But the charities, I got involved in Allergy New Zealand because my grandson Ruben had bad allergies.
Yeah.
And I'm still not officially involved, but I still speak to Mark, the CEO, and keep in touch. Diabetes, because I've got diabetes.
Yeah.
And they asked me to come on board and, spread the gospel.
Yeah.
And but I've been involved in a lot of charities, and I've enjoyed every moment. But I pulled the pin on them all about a year ago, before COVID.
Yeah.
I thought, more time for me now.
Yeah. You've given a lot.
Oh yeah, but I've had I met so many people.
Yeah.
Like there's a lady at Allergy New Zealand. I'm just sorry I can't think of her name now. God, they should build a bloody statue to her. Just great. And she's got a son in a wheelchair, but she still makes time. We're blessed with so many good people here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm going to give you one more quote of yours. You've said, "I've had 3 things in my life: my family, my business, and my rugby league. There were the 3 things, and I wouldn't change any of it. What a ride!" So that's been your passion in life, those three things.
Yeah. And you know the book, What a Ride?
Yeah.
I got a friend that used to be a policeman here called Dave Roberts. He was a police photographer, and he went to Canada to live, and we were very close. His wife was close with my wife. Yeah. And I rang him and I said, I'm going to put the book out, Dave. And he said, I've got a good name for it. He said, What a Ride, mate. I said, yeah, that sounds great. He said, I'll even give you the photo for it. And he had taken that photo when we were in
really?
Yeah, when we were in New Zealand, yeah. And of course, Phil Gifford wrote the book.
Yeah.
Very good book.
Yeah.
Great mate.
Yeah. So I guess, Peter, what I want to say to you is that, from my perspective, you haven't just succeeded in business, you've actually succeeded in life. You have been so much more than just your business. It's your involvement in the community, everything that you've done. You've contributed in so many ways. And, you are a tremendous role model to us all.
Oh, yeah, but let's not gloss over. I've had setbacks and I've had problems, and I've made mistakes,
Yeah.
No one's perfect,
No.
But what I've tried to do, I've tried to share the love. I believe in sharing the love.
Yeah.
Two big sayings I've got. The greatest gift of anyone is your time.
Yeah.
And let's all share the love out there.
Yeah.
And if you wake up in the morning, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And there are three things. I remember Ruben Wiki, a famous rugby league player, was on national TV, and he said, I can't remember what he said now. I got a mental block. He said, greatest gift of anyone is your time.
Yeah.
He said, a wise man told me that, then said it was the mad butcher.
Yeah.
And that's the fact of life.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful journey. And the book says it all. What a ride, mate. Unbelievable. I still, I wake up and I look at them and how did I ever get here?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So just to wrap it up, have you got any final thoughts for our listeners and viewers of this interview on what they need to do to succeed?
Oh, no, look, I don't know, because I've just rolled along.
You just gone with it.
I genuinely have, I've never sat down on seminars. And
no.
I've gone to hear a few motivational speakers,
Yeah.
I remember once the radio network brought a guy out from America, and we're sitting there, and he says, I have no idea what he's talking about, so I put my hand up, and he said, questions after, like shit, mate. I don't know what you're talking about, using all these bloody fancy words. And to the left, to right of me, there was these car dealers, and they all laughed at me. Said, "Oh yeah, no, we." I said, "Go on, you tell me what he was talking about." Didn't know.
Didn't know either.
And at the break, the guy came up and thanked me, and he said, "Sit down, will you sit down with me and have a lunch with me?" I did, and he said, "I really appreciate it." He said, "I haven't come all the way from America to talk to people," and he said, I'm used to talking to the top level people. And he said, this is shop owners and that. And mate, I had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah. So never be scared, to ask. And even today, I'll say to people, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And
that in itself is, I think, really valuable advice. Too many people are scared.
Well, mate, they're embarrassed.
You've got to be honest.
They're embarrassed. Who gives a shit, mate? If you don't know, you're better to know what it means. And you go away thinking, I wonder what that meant,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So honesty, that's been a big part of your
in the business journey? It certainly has. I've treated people fair.
Yeah.
No one can say I've never been done for misleading advertising.
Yeah.
Not all big firms can say that, to be fair.
No.
And I had a money back guarantee, and we honoured that unless we were getting ripped off, and a few people tried to rip us off. You know what I mean?
As you would. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been invaluable insights into your amazing journey.
Well, you have a good day and share the love out there.
All right. Thank you, Peter.